What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here with your DFS preview for the Northern Trust. Not to be confused with the Northern Trust Open, not to be confused with the Barclays or the Barclays Classic. The Barclays ones are old names for this tournament. The first leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs, the Northern Trust Open, that's a completely different tournament. So don't look at that when we talk about tournament or course history. Before we jump into this, I do have a couple of winners, a week-long subscription to my site, dfsondemand.com, for leaving a comment, for leaving a review on iTunes. The winners are Todd Schaefer and Ketter13. I'll reach out to you if I have your contact information. Otherwise, feel free to shoot me a note through the website and I'll get you set up with a membership. If you would like to win for this week, two ways to do it. Leave a comment below on the YouTube video after you have subscribed, of course, after you have liked the video, and tell me who the eventual FedEx Cup champion is going to be. That's step number one. If you're listening on iTunes, just leave a 5-star review. Say something nice about the show. You don't have to include your winner, and I will draw from there, which it's a much easier to contest. It's like 400 to 1 comments on YouTube that it is to iTunes. So if you want to win, go to iTunes. Okay, let's jump into this week. It is the Northern Trust. It's the first leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs. There are 125 qualified golfers, although 122 are going to be making the trip to Liberty National. Paul Casey, Henrik Stenson, Sam Burns deciding to sit it out. Casey fine with his positioning in the standings. He's a lock to get to the Tour Championship, taking the rest week. Stenson and Sam Burns are ending their seasons. They will not make it to the next round, the BMW Championship, so their season will end here. Because we've got 122 players in the field, and this is still a cut event, it's T70 and ties, top 70 and ties. There are going to be a lot more 6 of 6 lineups through this week. The vast majority of the players are going to get through. Your 6 of 6 numbers will go up. We're going to look for birdie makers, guys that are going to compete over 4 rounds. I tend to like this a little bit more. You're not just worried about that one sweat come Friday. That eliminates all. Eliminates all of your lineups. You have a much better opportunity to get them through. So let's take a look at the cheat sheet, and this is something I'll rely on heavily for this week. We'll talk about course history in a second, but we've got 5 guys over $10,000. They're Brooks Koepka at 12, Rory at 11.4, Dustin at 10.7, Jon Rahm at 10.4, Justin Thomas at 10. If you note on the right-hand side, if you're watching on the video, I have tournament history here. Obviously, Liberty National has not been the host for the Northern Trust every single year. We saw it here in 2013, which I have, I've got a gold column header for 2013 if you want to see the last time it was played at Liberty National. We saw it in 2009. Those champions are Adam Scott and they are Heath Slocum, okay, in those respective years. Additionally, Liberty National was the host for the President's Cup in 2017. I'll be very frank with you guys, as I kind of always am. We don't have enough data for course history. I'll show you the key stats. We'll go over it very, very quickly, but I don't know if you should use that tool this week. We just don't have enough rounds on it to make any real determinations. And additionally, they've gone through and they've changed like 12 of the greens since like 2012. I mean, it's just, they've done a lot of work to it and we don't have a lot of rounds. So I'm not using course history as much. You can look at tournament history a little bit, just guys that tend to try to peak at this time of the year. You're always going to get the same field, top 125 golfers, so the field strength is always going to be comparable. So you can look at tournament history, but remember that it's not necessarily course history. Okay, when I look at these guys above 10,000, if I'm going to choose one of these guys, if I'm going to have one of these guys be my first man into my lineups, I want it to be a leverageable play. The reason I say that is, you know, there's enough guys getting through. I think you need to kind of differentiate, and there's so many good players in the 9s and the 8s that I think you can load up on. If I'm going up this high, I don't necessarily want to come up here and grab chalk. I want to come up here and differentiate myself. So depending on how ownership actually pans out, to see Justin Thomas here at $10,000, is interesting. Last 4 years at this event, 8th, 6th, 10th, 16th, obviously at different courses, but he was 3-1 at Liberty National in the President's Cup. He was actually 3-1-1. We always go back to that moment when he smacked his club into the tree at the Honda Classic, hurt his wrist, and he wasn't the same since. Before that injury, he was gaining a quarter of a stroke putting per round on tour. After the injury, he was losing about 3/4 of a stroke per round. So that's a stroke per round difference between where he was before the injury and where he was after the injury. He went 5 straight tournaments losing strokes putting, which is something that he's rarely done in his career. The WGC FedEx was the first event recently that he gained strokes. It was minimal. It was like a half a stroke over 4 rounds, but at least he didn't lose a big number. So I'm hoping that he's trending out of this putting slump, whether it was the injury that did it to him, whether he's got a different feel on the wrist or he's completely healthy, whatever it is, he's elite in every other aspect of the game. I'm counting on that putting to come back. I'll see what the ownership looks like over the course of the week, but Justin Thomas is probably the guy I'm most excited to play up here. Outside, I mean, I also love Dustin as a leverage point. He's 10-7. He has lost putting. Again, I kind of go back to Justin Thomas as well. Similar situation here. He's lost strokes putting in 4 consecutive tournaments during this slump. I tweeted this out. If you go back and try to find 4 other, like the next 4 rounds that he lost strokes putting, you have to go back to last year's playoffs. I don't have 4 other consecutive rounds that he's lost strokes putting in like the last 4 years at least. So I'm not sure he's ever done it. So this is the worst putting slump of his career, so to speak, or of his strokes gained career. And he's just still elite everywhere else. He's got 2 wins at this event. He's got 3 more top 10s. He's outside of 2 missed cuts. He's never finished outside of 8th place. It's just like, he destroyed Liberty National. He was the overall points leader when they went there for both teams for the President's Cup. So I really like those 2 as leverage plays. I won't go up and grab someone who is super chalky. Moving down, though, to the 9s. This is where things start to get really interesting. So I really like Justin Rose. Justin Rose, who just continues to fly under the radar. 3rd at the U.S. Open, 20th at the Open Championship, 11th at the WGC a few weeks ago. He was 2nd at this event to Adam Scott in 2013, the last time it was played at Liberty National. He's piled up another top 10 since then. I tweeted this out and kind of, actually went off a viewer's recommendation, or one of my followers asked, basically, how often do these expensive stud golfers reach value, so to speak, or make it worth it? And I have a Twitter thread that kind of breaks down each one of these players. And Justin Rose ended up being the guy who's regularly higher priced, 9,500, 10K and up, who pays off when he's that price. He's just so consistent. He rarely lets down. He's a very solid play. So if I was starting my lineups here in the 9s and I was starting with Justin Rose, I would feel pretty safe and pretty comfortable with that. And it's something that I might elect to do as we kind of, obviously it's early in the week, as we kind of start building lineups. Rose would be a very solid first man in for me. And right below him is Webb, who, very quickly, I'll go on this. I don't think people realize just how good Webb Simpson has been. If you go back to May, only Rory McIlroy has averaged more strokes gained per round than Webb. That's it. Like 3-month stretch. That's a 3-month stretch. Only Rory's been better than Webb. He's got back-to-back second place finishes. He's got 3 seconds in his last 5 starts. He hasn't missed a cut since March. He hasn't finished worse than 30th in 9 straight events. I mean, it's just like, go and look at, or I'll actually tell you some of them. This guy shows up in big events too. 30th at the Open Championship, 16th at the U.S. Open, 29th at the PGA, 5th at the Masters. Then you go back to last year's playoffs, and he went T4 at the Tour Championship, T6 at the BMW. And this doesn't even include, like, if you go back to his, Players Championship win last year. Like, it's just, he's been so good for 18 months, and I'm not sure he really gets that level of respect. He's not sexy, right? He doesn't do anything awesome. He doesn't drive it like Rory. He doesn't putt it like Ricky. He just doesn't do it. He's not jacked like Brooks, whatever. He's kind of nerdy looking, but he's been awesome. So that's my Webb Simpson rant. I do want to jump down a little bit further here. So Adam Scott, he's your 2013 winner last time this event was held at Liberty National. If you can forgive him for the 2 bad weeks at the Open Championship and at the WGC, before that, he was one of the best players on the planet. 8,800 feels like a number I can move on. I will probably go down with the Adam Scott ship at this point. I just really, I mean, his tee to green game and even strokes gained total, he's been awesome. He's like top 3 on the PGA Tour this season. Obviously, good vibes. He won it here last time at Liberty National, so I can get behind that. But the real interest for me, and I imagine they're both so cheap. This $8,000 range, 81 and 8. Patrick Reed and Billy Horschel. I wonder how many lineups are going to have both of these guys, and I think the answer is quite a few. Patrick Reed, pretty hot coming into this, right? He's gained strokes. Let me see if I can find it here. He's gained strokes tee to green in 5 of 6. That doesn't even count last week's Wyndham where he just had 1 bad round. He's won this event before, obviously not at Liberty National, but he continues to knock on the door. 22nd, 12th, 10th, 23rd, and 5th coming in. Just seems like a really good spot to catch him. We know he can win big events, right? We've seen him win playoff events. We've seen him win a major. Love it. And then Billy Horschel, kind of the same thing, where Horschel just absolutely tees it up for these playoff events. If you go back and look, and I tweeted this out as well, he's got, if you go back the last, I think it's 3 or 4 years, aggregate. So if you just sum up all the strokes gained total, Billy Horschel's got the 12th most. So it's like all the big names you would expect, DJ and Tiger and whatever, like, and Billy Horschel's 12th. Well, he's obviously like, cheaper than, he's like probably 25th on this pricing sheet. And just to kind of put that into perspective, he's 12th. Rory's like 14th on that list. So he's even been better than Rory over the past handful of years in terms of just pure strokes gained. We've seen him get hot, win 2 events in a year, and he is absolutely another guy banging on the door, right? 6th and a 9th place finish coming into this thing. Really, really good spot for Billy Horschel. He lives for August and September, so I think he'll be very popular at $8,000. Further down the list, Gary Woodland at 7,800 jumped out at me. He's not been good since the U.S. Open. He's missed a couple of cuts, hasn't played much inspiring golf. I know he just had 2 babies, I think. I think he had twins. But to see him the same price as Ben On, lower than Shane Lowry, just $100 more than, Rory Sabatini, like that's a different class of golfer. Gary Woodland's a different class of golfer. He had that 2nd place finish in 2013 at Liberty National. I'm wondering if he can get it right. And I don't think you have to have too much exposure to him to get overweight unless he picks up traction. Another guy that's interesting here, and in general, I'm trying to avoid, well, I guess he doesn't count for this, but in general, I'm trying to avoid like rookies and guys who don't have a PGA Tour win yet. We really just don't see those guys win these playoff events often. In fact, Camilo Villegas is the only guy whose first PGA Tour win was a playoff event. His first 2 were playoff events. He won twice in 1 year. So and not to say a 2nd place finish from any of these guys wouldn't be worth value, but Matt Wolff is interesting. Now he has won already this year. And I want to show you what I like about Matt Wolff by taking you to the live leaderboard. This is on DFS On Demand. It is not part of the subscription service, so you can use this anytime you want. And I want to sort by tee to green numbers here. And Matt Wolff, you can see, was better than Ches Reavie. He's like 18th in the field in strokes gained tee to green last week. Lost strokes off the tee and lost strokes around the green, which is a little bit uncharacteristic from him. His off the tee stats are actually not as great as every commentator wants you to believe, but you can see the skill set that he can be elite, right? He can pound the ball. If he does it with a little bit more consistency over the course of a week, he's going to win like he has already done. But his around the green game is pretty good. So for him to lose in those two categories, which is unlikely to happen over and over again, I think Matt Wolff is really interesting. And what I additionally like about him, if I sort by fantasy points, Matt Wolff finished 19th in the tournament, but he is, what is this, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, like 12th in DraftKings scoring. So the point being, he's usually going to outpace his tournament finishing position because he can make a bunch of birdies. He can make a couple of eagles. He can do the things that, get hot and get the birdie bonus for 3 in a row. He can do those things that make him a very valuable golfer. I mean, he scored more fantasy points than Bryce Garnett and Jason Kokrak, and both of those guys finished 6th in the tournament. So keep that in mind when you're rostering some of these guys. Joaquin Niemann at 75 will be super popular. The kid, again, he's knocking on the door. He's doing it. This is the best stretch of golf we've seen in his career. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. He's been really, really good over the course of the last, 10 weeks or so. Actually, I have a stat here. Here we go. 10 weeks. So this goes back to June 6th. 10 weeks on tour. Only Colin Morikawa and Webb Simpson have more strokes gained than Joaquin Niemann. Really impressive stuff. And he's similar to Webb Simpson, or for the last 10 weeks, he's been similar to Webb Simpson in that Webb gains strokes everywhere. He doesn't rely on an elite driver and then he can lose strokes putting. He can't do that. Webb does not have any elite skill sets. So he basically gains strokes in every single category. Joaquin Niemann has been that way in the last 10 weeks. He's been, I think, only like once or twice. He's been, per round almost, he'll lose strokes in 2 categories. He's just been really, really consistent, which is exciting to see for a kid who's coming into his own and figuring this out and learning his game on the PGA Tour. So it's exciting. I'm probably not going to have to get too far down here on the cheat sheet, under the 7K range. I'm probably not going to have to roster too many of these guys. If I have to, Ryan Palmer, I think is fine. He had that win with Jon Rahm earlier in the year at the Zurich, 18th at the John Deere. He played well at the Barracuda. He's played well in his last 3 starts at the Northern Trust. No worse than a 13th place finish in his last 3. He's got a top 5 and a 6th place finish. So I think he's interesting. I think Andrew Landry continues. I had a lot of Andrew Landry last week. He made a lot of birdies. He was contending for a while. Hits the ball very straight. I wouldn't mind him at $6,700. Corey Connors is always going to show up in a lot of models, but I thought there was one other guy down here worth pointing out. Maybe not. Excuse me. Maybe I'm crazy. Oh, where's where I want to see? I want to see where Russ Henley is. He's got to be more expensive, I guess. We're doing this on the fly with you. I thought I saw him in this field. I might be going crazy at this point. Here he is, $7,000. So we had that 2nd place finish at the John Deere Classic. Played well at the Barracuda. I think he was 15th. 31st at the Wyndham and probably played better than that. I had him in my core. I wouldn't mind necessarily going back to him. Again, it's a high upside, kind of risky play, but he's sitting there at $7,000 if you need to round out some lineups. Let's roll over real quick. I mean, I'm going to show you this course stats. So if you're looking on the video, this is the course stats. Now, like I mentioned, we do not have a lot of Liberty National history. And I can tell that by the essentially random stats that are showing up here as some of the highest ranked and highest correlated. Or actually, I guess highest ranked. So you've got driving accuracy, you've got green and regulations from 150 to 175, you've bogey avoidance, you have official world golf ranking. This to me doesn't tell a story. When we go through this each week and we look at the key stats, a lot of times it tells a story. They're all approach, they're all putting, they make sense. This doesn't make sense to me. And I think I've always been very transparent with you guys. I'm not using the course key stats this week. It is not a knock against my calculations. I love my calculations. We just don't have the data. We've got, 2 tournaments worth of information. And I think it's actually bearing it out that we don't have enough by what's showing up here. So I won't waste any more of your time on that. Let's just quickly look at the strokes gained numbers and show you kind of who the hottest golfers on the tour are and who are some guys that might be able to come back to their baseline a little bit. No surprise to see Collin Morikawa, one of the hottest players, tee to green. He scorched the Barracuda. He's played well everywhere. Russ Henley does show up here. Russ Henley 3rd on this list. So played well at the Barracuda, played well at the Wyndham. Been great tee to green. Who else do we have here? A lot of the similar guys. Let's actually go to strokes gained total. See if we can see a little bit of a difference here. Benyon gets the bump from his Wyndham finish. Shane Lowry's on here. Leishman, Webb Simpson, Collin Morikawa. Siwoo, obviously really big week last week. But let's see who we can find in terms of putting here. Who are guys that need to come back to their baseline? I bet you it's a lot of the names that we talk about every week. Ooh, Adam Scott's on this list. That's interesting. Ooh, Jim Furyk's on this list. I think he had a good finish the last time this was at Liberty National. Cam Champ, man. But some of these guys I wouldn't want to play anyway, right? Like, I can get behind Adam Scott for other reasons, and I get a little bonus that he is leaving a stroke and a quarter on the table every single round. This Jason Day thing is going to have to give at some point. Jordan Spieth has given him a lot of cover for his also diminishing game. So Jordan Spieth has taken a lot of the heat. Jason Day has not been playing well this year either, but he doesn't get a lot of the heat from it. So Jason Day should be sending, buying dinner for Spieth at one point. So there's some guys out here that are leaving a lot of strokes out there. There's going to be a lot of 6 of 6s this week. Hopefully a lot of sweats. I'm rooting for all you guys. There are 2 ways to enter to get a membership to DFS On Demand. Leave a comment here on YouTube, subscribe, like, all that garbage. Tell me who's going to win the Tour Championship or the FedEx Cup. I guess it's the same thing. Or on the audio version, just leave a 5-star review, say something nice. You don't have to tell me who wins. Cool. Let me know what you guys think. Tweet me. It's at DFS On Demand. Or leave a comment below. Talk to you guys. Oh, no, don't. It's at RickRunGood. It's at RickRunGood. I changed my Twitter handle. I'm so used to saying that. It's at RickRunGood. Or leave a comment below. See ya.